Well, I didn't think I'd see this coming. Now, for those of you who are unaware, it was relatively thought that Battlefield would be releasing a new game in 2020. This seemed to be the common consensus about what was going to happen, seeing as the brand new consoles were coming out, and it had been 2 years since Battlefield 5 was released. Well, it looks like that's changed. Recently, an EA investor call has confirmed that Battlefield's new game won't be coming out until between April 2021 and March 2022, which puts it in that financial year. This likely means that the release date for it will be somewhere in between October and November 2021, which is a whole heap away, 2 whole years away in fact, from this current recording date of this video. This has huge implications for the next Battlefield game, and also huge implications for Battlefield 5. It also confirms and changes a few things that we knew about the franchise. So let's dive in. Off the back of the Pacific and Apex Legends, the EA investor call mostly focused on games as a service. This is not only a thing for EA, but also a thing in the general gaming industry right now. The things you're seeing with season passes and battle royale games doing things like that, free-to-play models and just regular updates consistently to games to keep them alive for longer is not something that's going to change. It's something that's going to stick around for quite some while. This is because of the success of games like Apex Legends and Fortnite, and ultimately this is something that's going to be sticking around for many years to come. Now, because of that, EA has kind of, in a way, changed how they're structuring what they're doing over there. From 2018 to 2021 will provide developers 3 whole years to create a brand new Battlefield game, which is fantastic for development time in terms of polish and also in terms of what they can accomplish. But the whole 3-year gap means that their current game will be having a continued live service, and it's likely that they're giving the extra time to the new game to prepare an extended live service for that one as well. So what this means is that Battlefield 5 is going to be around for a lot longer than people expected. And this is just the beginning. The Pacific seemingly is the start of something very new and very different coming this way. Indications are already pointing this way. We have Wake Island coming in December, and after that, well, it's fair game to guess whatever is going to happen. Battlefield actually released a Year 2 edition version of the game very recently, in fact I think it was today, which provides players with all the new weapons since the game released and effectively gets them primed and ready for the Pacific. And I think it's safe to say that the Pacific is very much going to set the trend for the content we're going to see in the future. I'd be very surprised if we didn't see the Eastern Front. I'd be very surprised if we didn't see the fall of Berlin. I expect these things to be in the game probably over the next 2 years. This game is now a live service. It means that it's going to be around for a long time, and whether or not it's good or bad, well, the money's there. It looks like EA is going to be pumping more money into the development of Battlefield 5 in the long term, so that the next Battlefield game comes out with some confidence behind it. I think the first year of the live service of Battlefield 5 certainly let a lot of people down in terms of expectations and what people actually wanted to see. In order for EA to really be able to sell another live service game, they have to kind of fulfill some level of trust and bring some confidence back to consumers that that's what's going to happen and that they can deliver a good live service. They've done this already with Battlefront 2, and they're probably going to do it again with Battlefield 5. Just keep hammering away at it until something really good comes of it, so that when the next game comes around, they'll be relatively easy to sell. And there's even more pros to this. It means that the next Battlefield game is going to have 3 whole years, if not probably even longer. I'd be very surprised if a small team at DICE hasn't already been working away on the new Battlefield. And it probably means that this game is going to be in a very good state when it releases, and likely have lots of gameplay innovations, because not only do the developers have time to refine and polish a good product, they also have the time to try and experiment things, which means that hopefully when the new consoles release, we'll be looking forward to a new Battlefield 6, or whatever they want to call it, in whatever happens to be the setting, in new modern hardware, meaning that we have new generations of consoles, we have PCs that are more powerful, and ultimately in 2 years' time we could be expecting a radically different game from what we've come to know to be Battlefield, be it in terms of what kind of improvements they can make on the Frostbite engine, or just in general what kind of innovations they might make. Battlefield has tend to be one of the games that pushes the boundaries in terms of what can be achieved graphically, but also in terms of what can be achieved physics-wise in-game with things like destruction. The other pro as well, of course, being that Battlefield 5 is now having an extended cycle, means that, people who actually enjoy the game can invest more time into it. They'll be able to see the game rapidly expand, and for those people who really enjoy the World War II setting, means that they're probably in for another good 2 years or so of content before the next Battlefield game releases. And I think that's a pretty strong place to be for most of the guys who are playing Battlefield 5 right now, and it's a reason to commit to the game. I think they've actually got some degree of commitment now. Now, whilst nothing has been announced in terms of what's coming next, Chapter 6, so to speak, I think it's safe to say we'll either see a little bit more of the Pacific, and then maybe we'll see something new in terms of an entire content drop. But it's definitely going to be known theaters. I'd be very surprised if, Battlefield 5 looked at the success of all of the Pacific DLC and went, nah, we're going to go back to like Norway or just somewhere that people haven't really heard of. I'd be very surprised if we didn't see things like D-Day landings, the fall of Europe, the Eastern Front, just things that people associate with World War II games, just because it is fan service, it will do well, and ultimately I think it's what a lot of the community are looking for. There are some cons to this, of course. Now, maybe this is just me being selfish, and maybe this is just me being one of those guys, but I'm kind of disappointed. I really wanted to play a different Battlefield game in 2020. I wanted to play something modern, something different, and something that felt finished. And maybe that's just on me, and maybe this new development cycle is exactly to alleviate the problem of the games not being very well done by the time they release. But I don't know. I just kind of felt as though I'd maybe hit a wall in some places with this current Battlefield game and wanted something a little bit different. But we'll have to wait and see, really. I mean, that's just me being a little bit, unrealistic, I think is probably the word. Unrealistic would probably be the word for that kind of thought process. And maybe it is a downside that we won't get to see a new Battlefield game in 2020, and the fact that they're missing out on the new consoles means that they're clearly conscious of the fact that they want to release a good product. Like, if they wanted to just make money, they'd release one next year, regardless of what state it was in. The fact that they're waiting a little bit longer means they're definitely committing some kind of time in order to revitalize the Battlefield franchise and give it a better name than what it's had presently. So I'm always here for that. The other downside, of course, is that it does mean Battlefield 5 is actually going to need a lot more work now. As much as I can safely say that the game is in a relatively decent state now after the launch of the Pacific, I think there are lots of things there that are still going to infuriate players, and stuff that just flat out needs redesigning. I think vehicles in Battlefield 5 are a great example of something that needs just a lot more work in terms of their balancing. I also think things like MMGs and just certain ways the game is designed will need an overhaul. I think, for example, the functionality of MMGs and the sort of balancing meta between vehicles and infantry is something that needs a complete rework in order to be put in a relatively good space. And I don't know whether or not that's going to be something that's easy to do or accomplishable in a short space of time. The other downside, of course, is that there's no guarantee that the live service is going to continue to be as decent as it has been around the Pacific launch. We could very well slip back into a bad state, we could have bad updates, and, well, again, there's just simply no guarantee surrounding all of this. And it's quite frustrating in the sense that I think the worry here is that Battlefield 5, as much as they want to get it right, that doesn't guarantee that that's going to be the case, whether it's, bugs and glitches or anything in between that could cause problems. And I think that's where the big concern point is. I don't think there's a lot of faith, which is entirely why this has been done, I feel, is that they're trying to restore faith in their live service models before they present a brand new one. So honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it is just the state of affairs that we won't see a new Battlefield until 2021, which is about more or less 2 years from now. We'll probably see a game in October or November 2 years from now, so that's quite a while to wait. And really, it is just a wait and see as to whether or not Battlefield 5 can really make the rebound. The Pacific is a good first step, but ultimately I still think people are massively disappointed from what they saw in the first year, and whether or not Battlefield can really shake that off entirely, and whether or not they can kind of restore the confidence in consumers and bring us a good steady flow of content, again, is just lots of question marks surrounding what will be the future of Battlefield. And really, I just don't know. I don't know whether or not you can really completely shake off the impact of what has happened originally. Star Wars Battlefront 2, for example, still has people asking them if it's pay to win due to how they handled loot boxes at the very beginning, and I'm sure lots of people are going to have questions as to whether or not Battlefield 5 is in a good state now, despite it being so much further along in the timeline. But anyways, folks, that's it from me today, The Tactical Brit. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Are you willing to stick out with Battlefield 5? And are you happy with this? Not really a delay because it was never really confirmed, but are you happy with the 2021 release date? As always, folks, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon in another video.